Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to answer the question, is Microsoft stock a buy? So you're going to want to tune in all the way till the end because you're going to get the answer. Let's get right into it. The first step in my framework looks at the customer value, and Microsoft is home to the Windows computer operating system, the Office suite of products, Xbox, LinkedIn, and more. And customers have shown an affinity to these products for Microsoft to have reached this scale where it's widely adopted worldwide across business and consumer segments. And there's evidence that they provide good customer value. Looking at the revenue, from 2013 to 2022, revenue soared from 78 billion to 198 billion. So that's evidence that people and businesses appreciate the value that Microsoft products are providing. Finally, Microsoft boasts a net promoter score of 31, and if we look at the scale here, what is a good NPS score? 31 ranks it just over the category of being great. That means that Microsoft offers great customer value. This NPS score measures how likely consumers are to recommend the product to a friend or family member, and a score of 31 is great. Moving on to my next step in my framework, which is unit economics. And software sales are inherently high profit due to differentiation and first mover advantages. Once a certain software is adopted by a wide margin of people, it's hard to take that software over. For example, Microsoft Excel is widely used among productivity workers worldwide. People are trained in that. There's college courses in that subject. It would be difficult for any other software to usurp Microsoft Excel in the areas that it serves. And so this is especially true for Microsoft in the scales that it has reached, with sales of 198 billion in 2022. Gross profit margin was excellent at 67% in average in the last decade, and operating profit margin also excellent, averaging 34% in the last decade. The next step in my framework looks at the total addressable market, and this part of my framework is even more valuable for large companies like Microsoft, because you want to know that it has opportunity to continue expanding and it's not reaching a ceiling. And for Microsoft, it's definitely not reaching a ceiling. It operates in several massive and growing markets, including the cloud segment, business applications, and gaming. These are all segments that are expected to grow robustly over the next decade. So Microsoft is nowhere near reaching a ceiling in terms of its revenue and profit. The next step in my framework looks at competition, and Microsoft competes with several powerful and experienced businesses across a diverse segment, including Amazon in cloud services and Alphabet in cloud services, Sony in gaming services, Apple in computer operating systems, and I could go on. So competition is fierce for Microsoft. Thankfully, though, for investors, the competition in these industries is primarily based on innovation and differentiation, with little evidence of price cutting or promotional behavior among rivals. Right? You're not seeing, for instance, Sony PlayStation cutting its price to try and undercut Microsoft Xbox sales. You're not seeing much of that activity, right? Because they're different products. Sony has its fans and Microsoft Xbox has its fans, and they serve those segments without undercutting each other on prices. They pretty much set their prices. They can differentiate their products because they're different products. They're not commodities, and that's good news for investors. The next step in my framework looks at valuation, and Microsoft stock is relatively inexpensive, looking at the price to earnings ratio and the price to free cash flow ratio. I looked back all the way before 2018, and measuring by the price to earnings and price to free cash flow, price to earnings, you've hardly been able to buy Microsoft stock at a lower price to earnings ratio than it is right now at near 26. And price to free cash flow, it's about the average price to free cash flow Microsoft has traded for going back until 2018. So investors are getting a good value here for Microsoft stock. The final step in my framework looks at risks, and the primary risk I note here is the macroeconomic slowdown and potential recessions in several large economies could slow spending from consumers and businesses alike. And secondly, the risk I note here is that the most of Microsoft dominance stems from the dominating position in computer operating systems, mainly from Microsoft Windows. If it should lose that position, then the core of that's the core of Microsoft business. If it was to lose that, then the rest of its business could follow. And so I mean I noted it as a risk here, but that can also be a benefit for the business because it's so dominant in that computer operating system segment, right? You can look at that as a benefit to the business as well as a risk if it should lose the business. So there's a give and take there between Microsoft dominating position in operating systems, whether to look at that as a risk or to look at that as a benefit. I can see both sides of the argument made for that position. Okay, now that I've looked at each step in my framework, let's see what grade I assigned Microsoft. For customer value, I gave Microsoft a B here. The main reason I gave Microsoft a B here is because customers do not really, you could be fooled by looking at Microsoft's revenue growth and thinking, oh, customers love Microsoft, that's why they're buying their products. And that's not really the case. The case with Microsoft is that it's such a dominant company in the segments that it operates in that customers have little choice than to go with Microsoft, right? You're either going to go with the Windows operating system or Apple operating system, and it's you have little choice on which one to go with. And so consumers choose one or the other, and that boosts revenue for both Apple and Microsoft. Doesn't mean that customers are really happy with the services that they provide, but they have little other choice. The next step, I looked at unit economics, and Microsoft was excellent in this regard. I gave it an A plus. Great gross profit margins, great operating profit margins stemming from its dominant market position. And I've said dominant so many times here because that's such a key for Microsoft, is that it is so powerful. It's got such market power, such pricing power, and that's really the thesis, the bull case for investing in Microsoft. Total addressable market, again, I gave it an A plus. It operates in several massive markets and they are growing overall, and so A plus there. Competition, I gave Microsoft an A here because competitors are not, although there's fierce competition, they're not competing on price for the most part, and Microsoft has proven itself to win in these competitions. So it's not just that there is competition. Yes, of course, every business faces competition, but Microsoft is proving a winner in these battles. And so they get an A from me in that regard. Risks, I give them a B plus because yes, the risks of a recession is real and it's near, and the probability continues to increase. However, that's a short-term factor that, afterwards the worldwide economies are going to return to growth. It's just part of the business cycle. You have a peak and you have a trough, and you have recessions and you have expansions. And so short term, yes, there is a risk here. Longer term, though, risks are not as elevated for Microsoft. And valuation, we saw it was relatively inexpensive, so I gave Microsoft an A minus in this regard. Okay, so now that I've given it a grade in each one of my 6 steps in my framework, it's time to answer the question if Microsoft stock is a buy. But before I do that, I would like to recommend that you subscribe to my channel, because the recommendation on the next slide is not static. It's going to change over time, and if you're subscribed to my channel, you're going to get those updates. Those are going to be valuable updates you're not going to want to miss out on. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And with that said, let's go ahead and answer the question, is Microsoft stock a buy right now? Yes, Microsoft stock is a buy right now. The relatively inexpensive valuation, coupled with its massive market opportunities and its impressive operating profit margins and gross profit margin, sways me to say that this is an excellent time to buy Microsoft stock. All right, so there you have it. That's all I've got for this installment of Is This Stock a Buy? Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for all investors of all skill sets and risk levels. So I'm proud to partner with the Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 3 times. Go to fool.com/Parkev to get your 10 stock picks now.